Hello, this video is for IXL 8.X.3. It is titled Write Inequalities from Number Lines. The 3-character code for this activity is Yankee Whiskey Niner. So the question says, what inequality does this number line show? And the directions are to write your answer starting with X, so they have to start with an X. So for example, it has to look like this. This is what your answer should look like, right? And we are always going to use the variable X. So let's go ahead and consider that we have the variable first. Then after the variable comes the inequality symbol, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. Those are the 4 symbols we can use. And then followed by a number. And that number happens to be the point that's on the line that we're going to see on the graph. So on this inequality here, this graph that we see here, we see that the number 4 is the number that's plotted. So we'll put our 4 in there on the right. And then we need X. That's the point we're talking about here. So we know that the X is always going to be on the left. And then the number is always going to be the number that we see at the end point on the number line. The only question that we have to consider is, which sign should we use? Well, if we think about it, let's look at some of the other numbers we have here, like 6, right? If we put in 6 there, and we got our 4 here, if we're just saying that X is, we're going to pick 6 for the X, because that's in the shaded section of our graph here. So which sign would go there? Well, 6 would be greater than 4, so any number over there is going to be greater than 4. And we also know that all these numbers to the right of 4 are greater than 4. Now, the next question is, could it be greater than or equal to? Well, remember the idea of open dot and closed dot? If it's an open dot, then 4 is not included. This point is not included. If it's a closed dot, then the point would be included, meaning it could be equal to. But since this is an open dot, it's not included, so it can't be equal to 4. Therefore, we're not going to include 4, so we just end up with X is greater than 4, and that would be our final answer there. I don't know if that was a good idea to try to go around that. Maybe it's a good idea to clear that up if we just do some erasing there, right? Next one, what inequality does this number line show? Well, we know we need an X, and we also need a number. Well, looking here, we see that that number is 0, and it's all the numbers to the right, so we want greater than. And notice the closed dot here. That means 0 is included. It could be equal to 0 as well as greater than 0. So I'll go ahead and include the greater, and I end up with X is greater than or equal to 0. On the next one, I need an X on the left. That's the way they all have to be, right? And then I need a number. Looks like that number is going to be negative 28. And all the numbers to the left of that, well, as we go to the left, the numbers get lower, right? So everything to the left of it is going to be less than. So we use a less than sign. And also, can it be equal to? Should we have the equal to portion? Should we put that there or not? Well, let's see. This is an open dot right here. So that means that negative 28 is not included. So it cannot be equal to it. So it has to be less than it. So we're just going to leave this as X is less than negative 28. On the next one, we need an X and a number, right? Well, it looks like that number is 50. And everything to the right's greater, so X has got to be greater than 50. And we do indeed have a closed dot, so it could also be equal to 50. So X is greater than or equal to 50. We need an X and a number. That number is going to be 7. And everything to the right is greater. So X is going to be greater than 7, and it's an open dot, so it cannot be equal to. Open dot means we do not include that point, so we're not going to put the equal portion there. So just the arrow, just the greater than sign. Here we need an X and a number. That number is 4. Everything to the left on a number line is less than, so all these X's are less than 4. It is indeed a closed dot, so we can include the equality concept. It could be equal to 4, or it could be less than 4. So we would say X is less than or equal to 4. The next one, we'll start off with our X on the left, and then we'll put our number on the right. That number is negative 3. And now we just need the inequality symbol. It's going to the left, so everything to the left is less than. and it's an open dot, so we'll just leave it as less than. It can't be equal to -3, it has to be less than -3. And our final two questions here, we'll start with the x, and our number that we need is 2. Everything to the right is greater. It's an open dot, so we're not going to use the equality concept, and we're just going to leave it as x is greater than 2. And for the final one, put our x on the left. Our value we're looking for that's on the number line, the end point, is -2. Everything to the left is less than, so x is going to be less than -2. And we do have a solid dot there, so it's a closed dot. So it could be equal to -2 as well, so x is less than or equal to -2. Now, again, to remind you, a little bit of a shortcut, I've saved it till the end. That means that everybody that's already shut off the video is going to miss this, right? So notice that, like we talked about before, that as long as the variable is on the left, then the arrow that you see in the symbol, those arrows that those less than or greater thans look like, matches the arrow that's on the graph. To the left, to the left. To the pointing right, it goes to the right. Pointing left goes to the left. To the left, it goes to the left. Kind of cool, huh? To the right, points to the right. To the right, it goes to the right. On all of these, same thing, right? They're matching up in their directions that they go. Even on the first one here, points to the right, the arrow on the graph goes to the right. So kind of a little trick there to help you along. And that's pretty much all I have for IXL 8.X.3, write inequalities from number lines. And good luck with your activity.